Hello and welcome back to English Everyday Podcast. I'm Sam. It's Friday, and you know what that means. We're going to learn English through talking about something trending this week. And here's why I love this. When your friend mentions this topic, or when you hear someone talking about it at work, you'll be able to join the conversation in English. You'll have the vocabulary, you'll understand the context, and you'll sound confident. So today, we're talking about Venezuela. Specifically, what's happening this week with former President Nicolás Maduro and this whole situation. It's complicated, but we're going to talk through it like we're just having coffee. And along the way, we're going to stop and learn some really useful English patterns, vocabulary, and expressions that you can use in all kinds of conversations. Quick reminder, speak along with me. Use those captions. That's how you build fluency. Okay, let's start. So, Venezuela. This country has been in the news constantly. But to understand what's happening now, we need context. Venezuela is in South America, on the northern coast. And here's something interesting. Venezuela has the largest oil reserves in the world, more than Saudi Arabia, more than anyone. Now, stop right there. Let me teach you something about that sentence. I said more than Saudi Arabia. In English, when we compare things, we use more than or less than. Venezuela has more oil than Saudi Arabia. You have more experience than me. This movie is better than that one. This is a super common structure. Practice it. More than. Less than. Okay, continuing. You'd think all that oil would make Venezuela rich, right? And for a while it did. Back in the 70s and 80s, Venezuela was one of the richest countries in Latin America. But then things changed. In the late 90s, Hugo Chavez became president. Now, Chavez was controversial. Controversial means people have very different opinions. Some love it, some hate it, but nobody is neutral. You know what? This word is super useful. You can use it for people, ideas, decisions. That movie was controversial. Her opinion is controversial. It's a controversial topic. Try using it this week. Chavez promised to help the poor, to redistribute wealth. He used oil money to fund social programs, and many people loved him for that. But the way he did things caused problems. He took control of private businesses. He changed the Constitution. He controlled the media. Let me pause here. Notice how I just listed several things? He took control. He changed the Constitution. He controlled the media. This is a common pattern in English when explaining multiple actions. We repeat the subject and verb. He did this. He did that. He did another thing. It creates rhythm and makes your point stronger. Listen for this pattern in English conversations. When Chavez died in 2013, Nicolás Maduro took over, and this is where things really fell apart. Now, fell apart is an expression. When something falls apart, it means it breaks down completely. It fails. The economy fell apart. Their relationship fell apart. My plan fell apart. It's such a useful phrase for describing failure or collapse. Maduro didn't have Chavez's popularity, and the economic problems got worse. Oil prices dropped, which was devastating because Venezuela's economy depended entirely on oil. They had put all their eggs in one basket. That's an idiom, by the way. Putting all your eggs in one basket means relying entirely on one thing, which is risky. Don't put all your eggs in one basket. Diversify. This applies to careers, investments, everything. What happened next? Inflation went crazy, and I mean crazy. Prices would double every few weeks. Imagine bread costs $10 today, $20 next week, $40 the week after. That's what happened. People couldn't afford food. Supermarkets had empty shelves. There were shortages of medicine, basic supplies. The healthcare system collapsed, and millions of people left the country. Stop right there. Let's talk about the word shortage. A shortage means there's not enough of something. Not enough food, not enough medicine, not enough workers. You'll hear this word in news all the time. There's a shortage of teachers. We're facing a water shortage. It's the opposite of surplus, which means too much of something. Over 7 million Venezuelans fled the country. That's 25% of the entire population. They went to Colombia, Peru, Chile, the United States, Spain, everywhere. This is called a refugee crisis or a migration crisis. Now, notice the verb I used, fled, not left, not moved. Fled is the past tense of flee, and it means to run away from danger. It's a strong word. It implies urgency and fear. People flee from war. They flee from persecution. They flee from danger. In normal situations, people leave or move. In emergencies, they flee. The word choice matters. Let me teach you about the word regime. A regime is a government, especially one that's authoritarian or oppressive. We say the Maduro regime when talking about his government. You'll hear this for authoritarian leaders. The regime in North Korea, the previous regime. It has a negative connotation. For democratic governments, we usually just say government or administration. Maduro has been in power since 2013. There have been constant accusations of rigging elections, imprisoning opponents, human rights abuses. Many countries don't recognize him as legitimate president. They say the elections were fraudulent. Let's look at that word, fraudulent. It means fake, dishonest, involving fraud. Fraudulent elections, fraudulent documents, a fraudulent scheme. This is a formal word you'll see in news and legal contexts. In casual conversation, you might just say fake or rigged, but fraudulent is the proper term. In 2019, opposition leader Juan Guaido declared himself interim president. Some countries recognized him instead of Maduro. It was strange. Venezuela kind of had two presidents, at least internationally. But on the ground, Maduro controlled the military and government, so nothing really changed. And the people were stuck in the middle of this political chaos while their country fell apart. Now, this week, this is why Venezuela is trending. There are reports that Maduro has been detained. Detained means held by authorities, not allowed to leave. It's similar to arrested, but not exactly the same. Detained is often used before someone is officially charged. He was detained for questioning. Border officials detained several people. It's a legal term you should know. This is huge news. Maduro has been in power for over a decade. Many thought he'd never leave. He had the military, the courts, everything. But something shifted. Let me point out a grammar thing here. I said, many thought he'd never leave. That contraction, he'd, means he would. In spoken English, we use these contractions constantly. I'd, you'd, he'd, she'd, we'd, they'd. It makes speech flow naturally. If you want to sound fluent, use contractions. Don't say he would, say he'd. Don't say I will, say I'll. We don't know all the details yet. Maybe internal pressure became too strong. Maybe the military turned against him. Maybe international sanctions finally worked. Sanctions are penalties countries impose on other countries to change their behavior. Economic sanctions might freeze assets or ban trade. The U.S. had sanctions on Venezuela for years. Now the question is, will they be lifted? So what does this mean for Venezuela? That's what everyone is asking. Some people are hopeful. Maybe things can change. Maybe there can be fair elections. Maybe people who fled can come home. But changing a country is complicated. Let me teach you something about that sentence. Changing a country is complicated. This is a gerund phrase as the subject. Changing, learning, speaking, these ing forms can be subjects. Learning English is hard. Speaking in public is scary. Changing habits is difficult. This structure is super common and sounds natural. The problems in Venezuela run deep. The economy is destroyed. Institutions are weak. Corruption is everywhere. Rebuilding will take years, maybe decades. Here's a word you need to know: diaspora. Diaspora refers to people from one country living in many different countries. The Venezuelan diaspora, the Jewish diaspora, the African diaspora. It's used for any group that is spread out from their homeland. The Venezuelan diaspora has been incredible. Despite losing everything, many built new lives, started businesses, contributed to their communities, and many send money back to families still in Venezuela. And here's something interesting. Many Venezuelans had to learn new languages. If they moved to Brazil, they learned Portuguese. If they moved to the US, English. If they went to Europe, maybe French or German. Imagine learning a language while worried about survival, while grieving your lost home. That takes strength. And actually, that's something to remember when English feels hard. You're probably not in a survival situation. You're learning by choice. That's a privilege. Use it. Don't waste it. Let me share an observation about how we discuss countries in English. Notice how I say Venezuelan people, Venezuelan food, Venezuelan music. We use the country name as an adjective. Chinese food, Mexican culture, Brazilian soccer, Italian art. This pattern works for most countries. It's really useful to know. Also, notice phrases for crisis situations. The government collapsed. The economy fell apart. People fled the country. These are strong, vivid expressions. The government collapsed means it stopped functioning. The economy fell apart means it failed dramatically. These paint a picture. In English, we love these vivid phrases. They're more interesting than just saying things got bad. Venezuela's problem was oil dependency. They relied entirely on one thing. When oil prices fell, they had nothing else, no backup plan, no diversification, so they were vulnerable. This connects to language learning, actually. Don't just focus on one skill. Work on listening, speaking, reading, writing, all of it. Diversify your practice. See, I always connect things back to English learning. Where does Venezuela go from here? If Maduro is really gone, what's next? First, stability. The country needs to avoid chaos or civil war. Second, an economic plan. How do you fix hyperinflation? How do you restart industries? Third, reconciliation. The country is divided. How do you bring people together? Fourth, justice. What happens to officials who committed crimes? These are massive challenges, but the Venezuelan people are resilient. If they get stability and opportunity, they can rebuild. It won't be quick, but it's possible. And for Venezuelans abroad, there's this difficult question. If things improve, do you return home or stay where you've built a new life? You want to help rebuild your homeland, but you've established yourself somewhere else. These are real-world dilemmas that require empathy to understand. From a language perspective, topics like this give you vocabulary for discussing current events, politics, economics. These are conversations educated people have. If you can participate in English, that shows high-level fluency. Let's review the vocabulary. Controversial means causing disagreement. Shortage means not enough of something. Regime is an authoritarian government. Detained means held by authorities. Sanctions are penalties between countries. Diaspora is people from one country living in many others. But more than vocabulary, we learned expressions: fell apart, put all your eggs in one basket, run deep. We noticed grammar patterns like comparisons with more than and gerunds as subjects. We talked about using contractions and choosing strong verbs like fled instead of left. This is how you really learn English, not just memorizing words, but seeing them in context, understanding how they're used, noticing patterns that native speakers use naturally. And when you learn through current events, you're not just practicing language, you're expanding your worldview. You're developing critical thinking. You're becoming a more educated person. Plus, these topics make interesting conversations. If you can discuss Venezuela thoughtfully in English, people will be impressed. They'll want to talk to you more. All right, I'll see you next time. Keep practicing, keep learning, keep staying curious. Take care.